Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll start this Taanit daf Lamed. We are going to begin on Lamed Amud Aleph, about 8 lines from the top of the 2 dots. So the Mishnah said that Erev Tisha B'Av, on Friday, lo yoichel adam beis tavshilin hu. Person is not allowed to have 2 dishes. Rabbi Yehuda lo shanu. The only time that we said this din is el mishesh shoyis l'mala, from the 6 hours and onward, like from already at that hour, you're getting closer to Tisha B'Av. Let's say you wake up for breakfast, so that's okay. And you can have 2 tavshilin. Actually, it's only talking about the last meal. We're talking about, again, we have lunch even, that would be okay, because you're still going to be having one more meal before the fast. But cool. The truth is, both of them are lenient. Let's see, you end up having your last meal, which would be a really interesting choice, to have it so many hours before that you end up having it, let's say, before the 6th hour. That even during your Sudas Hamafsekes, if you have it earlier, then you could eat 2 tavshilin if it's before. It's dafka by the last meal, and therefore, if you even eat after the 6th hour, but it's not your last meal, then you could still have 2 tavshilin. Tani kalishna kama, tani kalishna basra. Tani kalishna basra, we learn like the latter statement, hasayid erev Tisha B'Av. If you're going to have another meal, so you're allowed to have meat and wine even on Erev Tisha B'Av, right there. Because that's your Sudas Mafsekes. Now, Tanakh Lishna Kama, it's interesting why it says it in this order. The first Lashon, Erev Tisha B'Av, lo yochel adam shei tavshilin, lo yochel basar lishta yayin. You should make some deviation. So if you usually eat 2 dishes, only have 1. If you have a meal with 10, then you should have it with 5, says Rashi. You have to minimize a little bit. I don't know who this guy is, but if you drink 10 cups, now you should drink 5. The only time we have to make these precautions is we're getting already from the 6th hour and on. All these things are allowed. Tani idach. Erev Tisha B'Av, lo yochel adam shein tavshilin, can have 2 dishes. Lo yochel basar lishta yayin. Divrei Meir. You should again do things a little bit different. You should minimize the meat and wine that you have. So ketzim b'mayit. Litra basar. If you have a litra worth of meat, eat half. So split your meat and wine intake on Erev Tisha B'Av in half. If you're not noyig at all, then you shouldn't eat it at all. Let's say you have a custom to eat a radish or salty meat. After your meal, you're allowed to. Taanit kol shehu mishum Tisha B'Av, asul lechol basar ve'asul lishtos yayin. Anything which falls under the category of Tisha B'Av, says Rashi, can go in Suda Hamasik Ba, the last meal, but Taanit Sibor. Inami Suda Shena Masik Ba, you're not allowed, but it's Tisha B'Av related, so you can't have meat or drink wine, and you can't wash. However, anything which is not Tisha B'Av related, you still should not eat meat or drink wine, but you are allowed to bathe. Rabbi Yishmuel, Rabbi Yosi, Amr Mishum Aviv, Kol Shah Shemotolechol Basar. Anytime you're allowed to eat meat, Motolechol, you're allowed to bathe. Tanurav. Kol mitzvahs hanohagos be'avel. Any mitzvah which is connected to someone who is in a status of mourning, nohagas b'Tisha B'Av, also will fall for Tisha B'Av. Us, for example, asabachila, v'shtiya, v'sicha, v'nil sasana, v'tasha shemita, these 5 inuyim, person allowed to eat, drink, anoint themselves, wear leather shoes, or engage in intimate relations. And on this is the exception, that a person is not allowed to learn Torah. A person is not allowed to learn Mishnah, Talmud, all these other things. Interestingly enough, you're allowed to learn things that you're not accustomed to learn. And Rashi says, since you're not familiar with it, it's going to cause you a lot of pain and anguish, because it's going to just be so hard breaking your head over it that there'll be no pleasure in its learning, so it's allowed. So you're allowed to read certain sections in which are sad. And then we have an important line, and when it comes to school children, they also do not learn Torah on that day, because it says that the language and the words of Hashem, the Torah, is something which brings joy. And therefore, on Tisha B'Av, where a person is supposed to minimize their simcha, so therefore a person cannot learn. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Af enu kar b'makam she'enu ragel likros. You're not allowed to learn those things which are not Tisha B'Av related, or things that you don't know about. No, that actually will still also give you an element of oinig, of pleasure, because you are learning something pleasurable, even though it may be difficult. You can read those other sections of So he does stay true to that point, but again, the difference is whether or not it's a subject that a person typically doesn't know, and therefore may cause them tsar, whether or not they're allowed to learn that. Okay, the general din, halacha, is that we don't allow that either. Person doesn't eat meat or drink wine. Tana. Avel oichel hu basar maliach. He's allowed to eat salted meat. V'shaisa yayin megito. He's allowed to drink wine literally from a vat. Rashi says it's, what type of wine is this? It's chadash, it's new wine. Umatok. It's sweet. It's not so good. So they're allowed to have this lower quality of meat and this lower, inferior quality of wine. So kama, until when do we say it's salted? So Amram Chinna Bar Kahana Mishmei de Shmuel Kolzman, and there's different gears over here. She'enu kishlomim, or it's kishlomim. So let's see if there's a Rashi on this. Ad kami hava basar gomer. When is this considered to be real meat? Don't have basar maliach. It's not considered like salted. So kol shizman, says Rashi, shuka shlomim. It's just like the dinim of a carbon shlomim. We know shlomim, we're about to say in Rashi, is 2 days and 1 night. That's the zman for carbon shlomim. Shosham b'milchai el shnei yom v'leil echad. You didn't tarry salting it except for that amount of time. Because man achil shlomim, just like the amount of time it takes that you're granted to eat the shlomim. Says Rashi, Keshlomim de bizman achil shlomim ashachan dikri basar. During that time, it's called meat. After that amount of time, it's not considered meat. Shatam nifsal achri bezu ugimel yomim. So therefore, at that level, it's no longer under the category of meat. Now, that's when it comes to meat. As long as it is taisis, Rashi says, reitzech, it's still fermenting. So that is considered still new wine, and therefore you're allowed to consume that. Tani yain taisis ein bo mishum giloi. There's no issue of giloi, of leaving it open. Snakes know better to go anywhere near that stuff. V'kama to see sasai gimel yom. That's 3 days. Okay. Okay, let's stop there for a second. Let's look at a couple of questions. Question 10. Mimasai v'ad matai asul l'staper b'bnei avelos achorban. We did this, it was yesterday's daf. Question 10. L'psak halacha de Gemara. So he said Shvu Shechalbo Tisha B'Av Ad Achar Taanit. For some reason I didn't mark this in my Gemara. That was question 10, which was again right on the top over here. That again this was the Srichas Kamashman Halachas Grameir, and Halacha is, as we said, the Yashmin and Halacha Grameir Habamina Fil B'Rish Chaydish Kamashman Halacha Rishon Leil, the Yashmin and Halacha Rishon Leil Habamina Fil Achorah. Okay, so that was question 10. Question 11. Mahu Basim Aliyach Vayayin Megito Hamutarim Besuda Hamafsekas. So again, we didn't mark it down. So Basim Aliyach salted meat Shisham B'Milcha Yosim Izman Achil Shlamim. It's salted longer than that amount of time, which again is the period of 2 days and 1 night. And we're talking about wine. Yain Megito Kozman Shitaises. It's still like fermenting, which is 3 days. Weiter. That was question 11. Rabbi Yehuda Rav. Kachayim and Hagashal Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Loi. Erev Tisha B'Av Navin Lo Pas Chareva. They would give him this dried up bread, but melech with salt. The Yoshev, as we continue on Lama and the Beis, and he would sit Bain Tanor L'Kirayim, between the oven and the stove. Rashi says a makkah menuvel shibabayis, like the most repulsive part of the house, probably because it's very dirty, because of all the food and the crumbs. But he drink water. It was like a mace was actually in front of him. So he would have water and meat, water and bread rather. That was it. Tanan Hasam. In the place, it's also more psachim, a place in which the minhag is to do malacha on Tisha B'Av, you're allowed to. However, if the minhag is not to do work on Tisha B'Av, don't do it. And a Talmud Chacham should not do work on Tisha B'Av. Even though you maybe think it's Mishum Yehura, it looks like a Baal Gaiva, you're haughty, that you're acting like a Talmud Chacham, when maybe you're not, for this it's okay. And it's better not to work. Make yourself like a Talmud Chacham, Kadeshius Ana, so you should afflict yourself properly, but not working, rather focus on Tisha B'Av. Anyone who eats and drinks on Tisha B'Av has the same severity as someone who breaks Yom Kippur itself. If you work, even though technically you're allowed to, but you're not going to see any siman bracha from that money. Focus on the word kol. Kol oisam malacha b'Tisha B'Av ve'enu mis'abel al Yerushalayim. Such an individual who does work and he doesn't mourn on Tisha B'Av at all, he will not see its joy. Shneimar simchas Yerushalayim v'giluba kol ohayveha sisu ota ita masais kol hamisabel aleha. Mekan amru, from here we see that kol hamisabel Yerushalayim is a famous quote. Anyone who mourns over Yerushalayim, Zayich B'Ra B'Simchasa. One day you will merit to see it in its rejoiceful, great status. If you don't see it and you don't mourn for it, you're not going to see its joy. And we can understand the logic is because if you don't care about it when it's down, you're not going to care about it when it's up. You're not going to really. Nothing's going to matter to you. It has no value to you. So therefore, it's not something that you're going to ever cast your eyes and focus on. You eat and drink. Not only that, but you eat meat and drink wine on Tisha B'Av. Like iniquities upon your bones. So the machlok is whether or not you actually have to take your bed, flip it over, which basically what that means is you're not allowed to use the bed, rather you actually have to sleep on the floor. So Tanya, according to your reasoning, Rabbi Yehuda, you have to actually flip the bed over. What are you going to do with these women? You're going to have them sleeping on the floor? They're pregnant, they're nursing. I'm only talking about someone who's physically capable. If it's something which is dangerous or it's unhealthy for them to do, of course they can sleep in a bed. If they can't do it, that's okay. Rabbi the Chachamim l'chayra agreed Rabbi Yehuda that if you are able to do it, so my binayu, then what's the difference between the two? Binayu shar mitais. The whole difference is all the other beds in your house that you may not even be sleeping in. You have to flip those over as well. Kadasanya. Kishamru lichvay samita lomi tasu bavad hu kaifa. Not just your bed. El kol mitais kulan hu kaifa. All the beds. Rabbi hilchos katanak didan. The halachas akartan. V'lohadol chachamim kol ikr. And the chachamim disagree with this completely. Not that they allow you to not flip over beds that you're not going to sleep in anyway, but you still have to flip over and not sleep in your bed. No, they don't agree with this at all, and this is not necessary. I'm going to stop here because we have a very short daf, our last daf. So let's look at a couple of questions over here. Question 12. Mehen gimel shita is hatanoyim bedin kafiyas hamita betishabav. So one is you have to koifem mita, so you have to flip over your bed, but no other beds. You have to flip over your bed and all the other beds in the house, so you don't flip any of them around. So it's like the only three possibilities. That was question 12, which again I didn't mark down. So that is that piece. Okay, let's see if okay, TA 18. Be'ezu kfiyas hamita. What type of kfiyas hamita kuli alma moida the chayiv? That everyone holds you're obligated. Alib the brisa, it says. Ube'eza nechaku. So according to the brisa, the bed b'mitasov, it's your bed in kishiyachol, and that you're able to sleep without sleeping in a bed. You're not. It's not a situation where a person is like nursing or anything. Sharmitas nechaku. All other beds, they disagree. Okay, so that was TA 18. And let's look at question TB 19. Elu mitais ein kaifin betishabav alib de kuli alma. These are the beds that ein kaifin. I got this question wrong, but it's a great answer. So, which beds? Mitais de ubarais manikos. Beds of pregnant women or nursing women in kaifin betishabav alib de kuli alma, because it's enu yachol. Adkan.